We're talking about Josh Heupel, what he needs to address in spring camp. Let's go first down. First down, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
Thank you. So first down, Jimmy Himes with the column right on offthehooksports.com. The biggest questions UT needs to resolve this spring. Plan B, find a quarterback too. We don't discuss that a lot because I think if Nico goes down, the expectations get completely reset. But if he goes down for a quarter or a game against an opponent that you could beat, you would want somebody that would be able to step in there and be able to keep the ship heading in the right direction. So plan B, quarterback number 2, is a key for the Vols.
Josh Heupel's had 2 starting quarterbacks at Tennessee so far, Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker. Both have been knocked out of games because and had to miss starts because they got hurt. It seems very unlikely that, I don't want to say unlikely, but it seems very possible that could happen again with Nico Iamaleava. So that's a big, yes, they need to find a second quarterback. We'll assume it's going to be Jake Merklinger, right?
I would be stunned if it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see Gaston Moore taking it, or Navy Schuler taking it. All due respect to Heath Schuler's son. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be Jake Merklinger. I think this spring is about developing Merklinger more than anything else.
All right. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Jimmy writes, target practice, identify a receiver rotation. So we're going to trust that Brew McCoy is healthy, because I've been told that, and Jimmy writes basically to that effect, that he's going to be ready to go. Didn't specifically address the injury. But then you talk about Oregon transfer Dante Thornton. He started to make some noise last year and got hurt on the very play that he made noise. Mike Matthews, a 5-star prospect. Chris Brazel caught 44 passes at Tulane last season. Then you have 4-star signee Braylon Staley as well. Tennessee has to find that rotation. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it is Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton on the outside, which I'm not crazy about. And then I'm going to say Brazel in the slot. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dante Thornton, if they continue to push the slot narrative from what I've been told. I'm about 51 to 49% that he would be on the outside. Caleb?
I think it's going to be Brew McCoy, Squirrel White in the slot. And I think you're going to see Dante Thornton emerge on the other side. Now, I think you should have faith in Josh Heupel to shorten his rotation because he's big on that. But Dave, I want to ask you, because you've covered more teams than I have. When you see a team with a shortened rotation of go-to receivers, and then you see a team that's just, these teams that are so disorganized, they have like 6 receivers and can't find a guy. Is that based on the coaching, or is that based on when there was like that many receivers, they really couldn't find a go-to target usually?
It depends. I think there's something to be said for rotating your 3rd, 4th, 5th guy in. Well, in this case, it's a 3 wide receiver set, but I'm going back into the day of the pro set. I think there's reason for rotating those guys in, but you need a receivers coach that's really good at testing the temperature of the room, if I may say, in that he knows who needs to go and win. So I don't think that's a philosophical difference. I think that a lot like Chuck Smith sent 14 defensive tackles on the field against LSU back when, you have to have an assistant coach who's in charge of the subs that you trust. That's
okay, so
did I answer your question in a roundabout way?
Yeah, let me go specifically then, because I distinctly remember the 04-05 teams with Robert Meacham, Jason Swain, and all those guys, and they ran like 5 or 6 receivers out. And do you remember Cutcliffe takes over? And Cutcliffe, everybody talks about age, but I think you remember significantly. Didn't Cutcliffe pretty much say we're running too many receivers right now? We got to shorten the rotation.
I don't remember that he said that, but I know that we've discussed it before. I know that that's what he did. He ran fewer. Now, I've thought about you saying that earlier. I think that there's a combination of things going on. I think you're right. I think he wanted to shorten the rotation, but I also believe, Caleb, that there was a drop-off outside of Brett Smith, Swain, and Meacham You would agree with that, right? I can't really even remember off the top of my head who the fourth best
Well,
receiver
Lucas
was.
Taylor was probably the fourth receiver at that time.
Lucas was good. He was like a Craig
He
Faulkner
was, he was
type.
Yeah, he was a 1,000-yard receiver when he came in 2007. But yeah, there was, I mean, Meacham, Swain, and okay, Meacham. I think there was a drop off after Robert Meacham. I'm just gonna say, let's just put that out there, okay? I think Cutcliffe saw what, and this is where I knock Randy Sanders and Pat Washington. That's a name you haven't heard in a while, right? Pat Washington, and where I don't think they, I don't think they recognized the talent they had in Robert Meacham. I think Cutcliffe did. But am I wrong for saying that?
No. I don't think you're wrong for saying that. Me Drinker says there will be some receivers hitting the portal after spring, I think. Well, I do too.
That's still a good thing if they are, though.
I like Nimrod. I'm not so sure about Webb. And I'm really not sure about either. I kind of like Nimrod is a better way to put it, Caleb. But if these guys see Matthews, Staley, and Brazel running around, and you know how short the rotation can be because you've been around the program, it might not be a bad idea to hop in that spring portal. Hit like and subscribe, please. I mean, I see them as guys that could get lost in the shuffle if they haven't taken a Jalen Hyatt type step in the offseason.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I absolutely agree.
I mean, they better be careful, because if you slip outside this receiver rotation, you don't get back in it.
Right. No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, I think they'll both. I think they're both going to be gone. I think you're right.
All right. What down now? It's 4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas showroom in Athens. They deliver up to 150 miles. That means Chattanooga and Knoxville. What down, Coop?
Tennessee Center, Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
Dynasty Pools and Spas right there in Athens. Check out the showroom. Left-hand man, writes Jimmy Himes on offthehooksports.com. You've got to bolster the offensive line, particularly at left guard. We think Lance Hurd's going to be left tackle. How about left guard?
Yes, could be.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it could be Andre Keurig, Texas transfer, who was all right last year, or Jackson Lampley, or a signee. Do you have to make a decision at that position when you leave spring camp, or do you just have to have a good feel for it? Where would you like to be if you're Josh Heupel in a month?
I think the biggest thing probably is I think you want at least 2 options in a month. I just don't know who those 2 options are. I think that.
Okay, may I say quickly, you sound a little like Dan Brooks that said you'd like to have 8 defensive tackles at an all-SEC level if you can. Okay, so what you're saying is very, very optimistic that you would like to have 2 out of this group.
I just don't think they're going to have 2.
Yeah, because you didn't have 1 out of this group last year. My realistic goal is to say, Andre Keurig, you played at Texas. You got paid to come to Tennessee. Surely you've been here a year. It's time to be the starter. That's my goal. He needs to be the 1A and 1B guy. And if you need to get Lampley ready behind him, that's fine. But as far as the starter, if Keurig doesn't grab that role in spring camp, I've got real concern about A, the offensive line, and B, the fact that I decided as a coach to give him a scholarship.
Well, that Jackson Lampley switch has flipped, man. He is so serious about that lawsuit, though, that he's going to play his butt off this year. So he's going to emerge in the spring. I'm sorry.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. What down for Dynasty Pools and Spas?
All SEC Center, Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. So there are 2 that I want to address, and that's the back end of the defense. The linebacker room has to get better. The defensive backs have to get better. But I remind you first that 4 Downs brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com, www.dynastypoolsandspas.com. Having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And then delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. You lose Aaron Beasley, you get Keenan Peely back with an extra year of eligibility, torn bicep in the season opener last year, but having him back, he's now 58 years old, no, 26, but he will have a major impact on this team from a leadership and play standpoint. Arian Carter, I think, is an emerging star. Jeremiah Thielander, I hear great things about, but we haven't necessarily seen it on the field. Elijah Herring, the leader in tacklers. So I don't want to get into that whole debate whether or not that's a big thing or not. I do think he got some junk tackles, but he was around the ball quite a bit, is a factor as well. Caleb Perry, another option, as well as four-star freshman Edwin Spillman. That's at the linebacker room. So even without Beasley, I think we would have argued was Tennessee's best linebacker. Maybe you would have said Peely headed into the 2023 season. But you lose Beasley, but you might be better at linebacker as long as they stay healthy. I don't think they're incredibly deep at that position.
No, they're not that deep. And we saw this. They weren't that deep, but they're deeper than last year. And they suffered like one of the...
I felt like I say too deep. I don't even think they were too deep last year. I think they were two linebackers deep. I think it was Peely and Beasley. I think that's as deep as they were.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I was thinking about that last night. I've never seen a set of linebackers that if you lose one, you're like, uh-oh. I mean, when have you ever seen that in Tennessee football history? I mean, Al Wilson went down in 1998 and they still got the win at Auburn with him cheering them on from the sideline. I mean, when have you ever seen Tennessee field a football team that has two competent linebackers? That's what they went into last season, is two competent linebackers. Now, you would have had Arian Carter, but he was a freshman and he ended up getting banged up. Elijah Herring, jury out. I feel the same way about you. But when can you remember Tennessee being that thin at linebacker?
Oh, never. And we said going into last year, who were some of the players Tennessee can't afford to lose? Keenan Peely was on that list, and he went down the first game of the year, and Cooper Mays didn't play the first 5 games of the year. They were like top 3. 2 of the top 3 players that we felt Tennessee couldn't lose, and they both went down. By the way, you are right about Al Wilson. That's why, to our debate on Tuesday, he could never make the most valuable player in Tennessee history. He didn't even play half the season, and Tennessee still won the national title. So just wanted to throw that out
half
there.
The season, that's an exaggeration. All right, looking at the secondary, Tennessee nabbed 3 defensive backs from the transfer portal, and 2 need to be starters. Jermod McCoy, Oregon State, Jalen McMurray, Temple are corners. Jacoby Thomas is a safety. Somehow the Vols were bad in the secondary, and they lost 7 defensive backs from last year's team. I mean, the majority transferred to a Power 5 school.
Wait,
but
that's the good news for Tennessee. I always laugh when people...
I know, like, that's what I was setting you up with. That is the bizarre thing, is they might actually be better after losing 7.
Well, I always joked about this because back in the day, who remember? I mean, who still gets the college football magazines? I don't anymore. I don't get Lindy, Street Smith.
I almost bought one out of pure nostalgia the other last year. It would have been last year. I remember last June or July seeing one, and we were at media days. It's when we had stopped for gas or stopped at, maybe you weren't even with me, but I remember thinking I was going to buy you one, and there was
I loved those. Remember how epic you looked forward to? I would stack them, and like my favorite thing with all of them, when they'd all do these rankings, they'd all come out with things. Phil Steele was the most accurate, funny enough, but they would all they all had like returning starters into their formula. I'm like, guys, returning starters only matters if your starters are good. Okay, if your starters suck, you don't want them returning. And you saw that all the time. I remember there was one year, I think it was 2004. Vanderbilt was returning every starter, and you had everybody saying, Vanderbilt's going to make a bowl this year. They're going to make their first bowl in a long time. And, of course, they didn't make a bowl because those returning starters were terrible. And Jay Cutler was their quarterback, and Jay Cutler is not a leader.
But they tried incredibly hard, Caleb.
I mean, they probably are all making more money than we are now, working in finance or accounting or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, and they probably played the stock market and got rich. But yes, on the football field, they were laughable.